So religion and environment, yes. It is quite a big presentation, so don't be scared because I will not cover it all. I will just go quickly through some of its content and messages. So let us begin with it. I don't think that any one of us is unaware of the environmental crisis that is going on everywhere in the world. We can see it through biodegradation, through soil being not fertile as it was. We can feel the climate change. We can feel the droughts and all the kinds of natural catastrophes that is happening to our planet. And from the religious perspective, this is something that religions have not tackled so much, or if they did, they stayed in a very let's say very theological aspects, very theoretical aspects. But the current changes in the world is pushing also religious communities to answer and to act, not only to act in a theological way, in a scholarly way, but also in act as religious communities and faith-based organizations. In the effort of transformation from fossil fuels to sustainable alternatives, and the ethical problem of environmental justice, which is not just the changes that we experience in the nature, but also how these environmental changes affect our daily life, but also our relationships and our societies. This is where religion does have, in my opinion, a strong possibility to act. In general, religions have a negative view of consumerist aspirations, or let's say in a very broad way of capitalism, but this is not really so in every aspect. And this negative view is that that our consumerism is not only damaging the environment, but it also damages us within the environment. And because of a certain influence that religions obviously have in societies across the world, worldwide, the religious support for the UN Sustainable Development Goals, so the Sustainable Development Goals of UN until 2030, is the first UN plan that includes religious communities and faith-based organizations ever. So this is the first time ever that religious communities have been called to help reach the Sustainable Development Goals. And the big change happened after Pope Francis wrote his encyclical Laudato Si, which completely changed the perspective of what religions can do. I mean, religious communities and institutions here, and how to have something that is called integrated theology approach, of which I will talk a bit more in this presentation. So what is that religions can offer for the environmental action? So one of the things is what I already said. So there is a pragmatic, profit-driven considerations in the world. It is the economy is profit-driven, but it also connected to politics to make a very pragmatic approach. Yes, there is an environmental crisis, but it will happen. It will happen tomorrow and not today. So why not go for profit today And then we will think how we will sort things out and how the problems will be sorted out. I think that maybe 2 years ago, we are still in that position of thinking. But today, I think many had to change this opinion because of the effect of environmental changes are such that there is no point of waiting. From religious perspective, there is this moral concern for the future. Also, it is, well, let's put it aside maybe for discussion. I have some ideas about what does it mean to have a concern for the future from the religious perspective, but definitely it has a need for adaptation to current circumstances from religious communities, and to see what really can be done. The starting point is the inherent value of natural world. The world is good. This is something that is present in almost every religious belief. There are some differences in realizing what is this world, and how does it really act within the spiritual beliefs and traditions. But in general, there is the natural world is inherently good. And because it is good, there is a responsibility of the created creatures who have reason, that's us, to care for this natural world. So not in every religion, but in many religions, there is also ontological continuity between human and non-human beings. There are some differences how to understand this. For example, in Eastern religions, there is definitely an equalization between human and non-human beings. In some Western traditions, humans are considered to be managers of creation. So moral significance of non-human beings is important maybe to some novel approaches in religions, like maybe in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. There is some now ideas how to valorize the lives and natural habitats of non-human beings. But what is religiously and theologically important is that both human and non-human beings have some moral norms that have to follow. And these moral norms they pronounce the responsibility of rational creatures, that is supposedly us, we are supposedly rational. So and to see what this management of the natural world really is. So there is legitimate and illegitimate uses of nature. Legitimate use of nature should be obviously something that is protecting the nature, not meaning that we have to abandon our needs from the natural world, but to balance it with the needs. What is really a need and what is greed? So do we have to really be overly using nature in a way that leads to destructiveness? So in many religions, especially in Eastern religions, there is this awareness of harmony. If you are not in harmony, if you step out from harmony, then you will experience what we experience today in our world. These are general teachings on environment. So there is definitely some ambivalence in understanding what religion is really teaching about environment. But and as in many other cases, you can use whatever thing in the world, whatever topic in the world, and you will see that there are different approaches from religious side. So the same is here. You can be strongly motivated religiously for climate activism, but you can also be completely quiet and not doing anything. Or you can deny ongoing change, which is present. Even I was even astonished how much presence of this denial exists. But I would say that in recent years, religious arguments for climate justice are clearly growing, and the global climate change is calling for more interfaith collaborations. But why? Why is this important? Maybe from a Western world perspective, let's say from West Europe, this is primarily Western Europe idea, not so much US, maybe Canada. They would argue that religions do not have any say here. But roughly 90% of the world population identifies as belonging to religious traditions. And they have a very tight social connection in every village. So not only on a national level, but basically in every village you have some religious representative. And there in many countries, the religious institutions and religious leaders are definitely without them, you cannot have any collective action. There is education connected to religious institutions. There is access to transnational networks. Leadership and ownership of land and capital is also something that many religious communities have. So altogether, this is legitimate reason why religious communities and faith-based organizations can and should approach environmental ethics with an answer. I will go very briefly, very briefly over major world traditions. Hinduism has ethical, so the environmental ethics that is that includes some devotional practices that promote the positive view of the world. As maybe some of you know, Hinduism is not so much, it doesn't have very positive view of the world. The world is seen as an illusion. But because of the connectivity, of pantheistic connectivity to Mother Earth, the call for humans to protect, preserve, and care for the environment is present. In Jain and Sikh religions, there is also this interconnectivity of spiritual realms, of spiritual realities, with almost sacramental understanding of the natural world, and reincarnation and recycling of life forms is very pronounced here. In Buddhism, also a quite negative view of religions, of natural world as being an illusion in which we live. There is still very, let's say, the possibility to accentuate, to emphasize interdependence or even dependent origination. So eco-Buddhism is trying to say that nature is not to be dominated, but it should be free by itself. This is something that is still being very discussed in Buddhism. The conservative Buddhist community, the Sangha, they do not really want this, or they don't find it very Buddhist, so to say. But engaged Buddhism is doing quite many interesting things. For example, I was in Thailand and I saw the practice of ordaining trees to save the habitat of water buffaloes, which are important not because of the water buffaloes, but because of the rural population. If the forest would be destroyed, the whole village populations in this area would have to move to city or somewhere else. They would lose basically their livelihood. So the Buddhist monks have a practice of ordaining trees with their saffron robes. So if when you tie the saffron robe to anything, including the trees, then this becomes a monk. And so they saved the forest by ordaining the trees to become Buddhist monks. Very interesting idea. Judaism has been interesting. I mean, it is the origin also, of course, of Christian and Islamic approach to environmentalism. But in this dichotomy between understanding the human role, is it a domination over the nature or responsibility for the nature? Judaism has a very interesting answer. The world is good. The world is very good. This is the beginning of the both Hebrew and Christian Bible. And, you know, 7 days of creation, 6 days of creation plus 7 days of rest. But every day finishes with God seeing the created as being good. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean perfect. So what Jewish tradition says is that humans are left with responsibility to perfect the world, which is good. And this is, let's say, some kind of a challenge that God gives us. It has many ways how to do it, and as I say, we can come back to particular religions to discuss it. The Christianity is being probably the leading religion in environmental ethics today, both from Roman Catholic, Orthodox, but also the Protestant denominations, and there are different perspectives, and also there is an influence recently of animal rights and feminist theology here, which makes a really interesting mix, I would say. Islam has a very pronounced idea of human role as guardians of creation. So it is very pronounced in Islamic law, and there is also many modern practices how to do it, but also very good ancient practices from the beginning of Islam and from the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Baha'i is probably also one of the religions that is being very focused on environment, but also coupled in this integral approach to environmentalism as not only being guardians of the natural world, but also to warn against injustices, risks, and climate changes and everything that is connected to it. There's also many indigenous traditions which maybe do not have a direct environmental message, but there are practices that are focusing on harmony of so-called indigenous cosmovisions, where the nature is part of a bigger cosmic system and structure. And some modern religious movements are also very aware of the role of nature through the world of nature spirits and deities, living nature, Mother Earth, Gaia, or many other ways of how to connect with it. It is a big and very diverse community, So usually they're called pagans or animists, but this is also far-fetched. I think there is a lot of ways how to call them. What is interesting with them is that they reject usually environmental movements as a standard structural approach. They like to focus on individual, and they like to say that change must begin within oneself. So, what is basically a spiritual ecology, which is maybe one of the things that is really in many of such religious movements, is that it is the intersection of religion as I would say mainstream structured and institutional system, and spiritualities, which is much more vague idea, very individualistic, and connection, intersection of environmentalism and ecology with both of them. So there is this spiritual drive for ecological action here. There is some inner idea that it is not just because environmental crisis is ongoing, but it is because there is something spiritual from within individuals that is calling for eco-action, and usually it is a broad movement which is against the anthropocentric, dualistic, materialistic, reductionist, mechanistic, utilitarian, consumerist, and economistic worldviews. Sometimes it goes bad, I would say. So it goes to radicalism and even eco-terrorism. It was seen in the last decades. But there is also this idea of spiritual syncretism, where everything goes, everything, you can put everything together in one spiritual idea that drives the eco-action. One of the reasons why religions are called to act is the climate change, as one of the most, I would say, contested topic among religious communities today. And there is no unifying platform. So there's a lot of different ideas about what climate change is, not only, of course, in religion, but also in the wider scientific community. But in religious terms, I would say that broadly we can divide communities in eco-friendly activists and eco-skeptics. And especially this is prevalent in the United States. So there is this idea that manipulating nature, climate engineering, ecological restoration is always connected to this idea of morally, incorrect, or religion's answer if it is morally correct. These answers sometimes differ significantly. So there is not a single answer from a religious perspective if all these things that humans do with nature is morally correct or not. But it is not about only about climate change. It is also about what these changes and biodegradation, environmental degradation, what does it mean for our lives, and especially for things that we depend on, like food and agriculture. So issues of eating meat, for example, is a very religious topic. If you go to India, the current government in India is pushing for a very no meat behavior, especially, of course, against other religious communities like Muslim or Christian. There is, of course, the issue of water, which is, again, in creation myths, one of the basic elements. Water without water, there is no life. And religions are more or less equal here in calling for international community, international political organizations to accept water as human right. The access to water and access to drinkable water, to safe water, is a human right. This is what religions call for, to be enshrined in the world international human rights conventions. Interestingly, also, there is a gendered impact of water insecurity and injustices. I think that maybe you come from these countries also, that there is obviously not a big opportunity to see males, guys, to go fetch water somewhere 12 kilometers away from your home. It's always women who are doing this. This is also one of the topics that is being discussed or being silent on. Population growth. Of course, religions are essentially pronatalist with strong feelings about abortion and contraception, mostly against it. But does pronatal orientation is really something that is supporting overpopulation? If we go back to the religious scriptures, to holy scriptures of all religions, especially in Abrahamic religions, there is a necessity of a family to survive in times of war and poverty, which means that overpopulation in this case is not good. And this is something that should be theologically explained and also acted upon, which is again connected to the environmental crisis that we live in. There are many approaches to consumption also, from purity traditions, from Jain austerity, which is extreme, to more moderate ways how to accept the materialistic way of living, let's say, in a way. So Quakers stress that God creates adequate resources to meet our basic needs, but if we transgress into luxury, our consumption produces suffering. So it is suffering maybe not of one who has money, but it is definitely suffering for many others. And I recently heard a very interesting idea that humans are the only living creatures on this planet who have to pay to be alive. We have to pay to stay alive, to stay alive. There's no one else paying, no animal will pay to stay alive, but we have to pay to be alive. So this is something that is consumerist critic against consumerism. There is also these issues with green consumption. Who can afford green consumption? Obviously not someone who experiences poverty. So the people who experience poverty, they cannot eat well and good food, There is this gender also. Okay, yes, there is gender and connected to environmental justice. I was just talking a bit about it, and that's it. So yes, I'm quite ready to take questions now, or comments or thoughts. It would be very interesting to hear it.
That is a very, very inspiring presentation. I am personally very religious, but I haven't heard that deep thinking about religion, especially as far as it relates to the environment. Very, very powerful presentation, and I very highly as well commend you, Bishop Vedran
Thank you.
Bushina.
Thank you. I would just say I'm not a bishop, not yet.
Okay. I apologize.
No problem.
I am so sorry. I'm saying something that is not right. I hate to say things that are not accurate. I apologize from
No
of my
problem.
heart. Please forgive me. Anyway, should I call you a pastor or a priest or
Yes,
which one?
you can use pastor or just Vedran, you know, it's fine with me.
All right. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Pastor. I have so much respect, for people who are in the same capacity that you are. But I won't make any more comments, ladies and gentlemen. And I am convinced that you agree that our subject matter expert, Professor Vedran, a truly outstanding job. So let's go real quick now into the questions. And we are beginning today. Remember, guys, please just one question at a time. Although Pastor Vedran granted us a lot of time, but please be considerate of what other participants might want to say. So don't abuse the time. Go straight into the questions and make them fairly short, one at a time, beginning with Faziana Naren. Go ahead, Faziana.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Can we found, can all religion work together to find an equilibrium between population rate and food production? Can they work together?
Thank you.
Yes, it is. So I think environment question is something that religions are keen to work together because it is not so much. It is not a topic that can produce conflict among different religious approaches. At the same time, as I said, there is not a single answer. There is divergent ideas what should be done. Of course, I would say that all religions would respect the need, for example, for a solid, healthy food production, for example. But the reason why there is a hazard here, why does it happen that you have this need? I don't think that all all religions have the same idea about that. So the question about population and enough food, I say it is not, of course, for religion to answer. This is something that is based on the demographers, and food scientists and economists. What we are discussing here is maybe more ethical side of it. So does it really do you really use in the best way resources you have to produce something that is not going to extreme in either way? I'm an expert in not answering the question, so I hope you will not mind me to stop here.
Very much, Prof. Samuel, the next question. We're ready for you, brother.
Good morning and good evening.
Hi.
And thank you for this presentation that you have just raised so many issues among us, especially as a religious group. I'm just wondering, with the diversity of religions, how we can work together to tackle this environmental issues. And at the same time, in the Bible, sorry to say, but it's true, in the Bible, it's telling us to multiply like sand. And here we're talking about birth control, control the population and all that. So these are some of the challenges that we are having in our beliefs. Having said that, in what ways do you think religious communities can contribute to environment sustainability? And what action do you suggest we can plan to tackle this issue as a unit, regardless
Very
of
much.
our... Yes, thank you.
Thank you for the question. This is a very good question. Let me just say a few words about the birth control. Yes, multiplying is God's command. But we are also rational creatures, you know. If we multiply so much that we don't have space anymore and nothing to eat, so there should be some kind of a borderline where you cannot multiply anymore. So the blessing of having kids, of multiplying and having families, is present and should not be denied by any kind of ethical approach to birth control. Of course, I don't know for a single religion that is accepting abortion, for example, or things like that. But of course, there is this idea that you know, you cannot multiply forever. Like, you know, even biologically, one family can have, I don't know, up to 15 maybe. But even that is it isn't. If you connect it to other verses in the Bible or any other holy script, then you also have the responsibility to these kids, and you have to protect them and you have to provide for them. So if you cannot provide for them, then it is unethical to produce, you know. So this is one thing. But the second point is very important, and I would like to say this. Because of the possibility to reach the last village in the earth with a religious person, with a religious minister or a cleric, it is important for priests, imams, you know, whatever. It is important for them to be aware of this topic, and this is something that I do practically. I do workshops, you know, and seminars for religious communities to see how these theological notions can and should be put into action. So it is not only encouraging or supporting the I don't know, the eco-friendly ways, but also to start doing it in your own community. Many Jewish communities are turning now to eco-kosher. Many Islamic communities are turning to eco-halal. So it is not only the way of of supporting some kind of environmental groups, but it is also showing how it can be done, supporting faith-based organizations in working in such a way, helping people, addressing social injustices, which are very often connected to environmental injustices. The migrations are happening because of impossibility to live anymore in certain areas. The social injustices of poor people is very much connected to the access to healthy water sources, to water itself, you know, to energy itself. So this is something that is interconnected. So that's why it's integrated theology. That's why it should be connected with all these things, and it can be addressed on local levels. This is important. Whatever these guys in UN, you know, or Pope or many bishops, which I am currently not yet, whatever these people sign, if it is not pushed down to the local levels, if it's not connected to local levels, then I'm sorry to say it's just an empty piece of paper.
Thank you very much for your wonderful answer. I think beautiful question as well. We're gonna do a quick trip right now to the chat box where there is a question from Christian Zawiya from Liberia. I don't recall exactly when you made that statement, Professor Vedran, but Christian asked, what do you mean that human beings pay to stay alive?
Yes, it is. It is basically. I mean, it is true. You know, can you go outside and get your food? Maybe yes,
Yeah.
if you live in an area that
A
has
garden.
wild berries or something like that. But basically, if you don't have money, you cannot eat.
Can't survive. That's true.
So that's why I'm saying there is no single other living being except humans in this world that pay to stay alive.
That is correct. I hope you are satisfied, Christian Zawiya. As we are now moving to Cece Jules Haba. Remember, let's make it quick, ladies and gentlemen, and to the point. Cece Jules, your mic is on.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. What can be the common positive core belief reason of all these religions and the negative aspect in our society?
Thank you. Professor Vedran.
I'm sorry, I did not hear the first part. What was it? The first part?
What can be the common positive core belief reason of all these religions and the negative aspect in our society?
Okay. So so the core approach is always, I would say that we should care. You know, this is something that is the basic idea of almost every religion is the relationship you have with the other. So the kind of relationship you have with the other is the basic of ethics, you know, of religious ethics in this sense, and in case of environment, it is also not only connection to the natural world and to God in that way, but also connection to our fellow human beings and how we approach their needs and how we don't approach their needs. That's also a question. If we don't approach it, then it ends in conflict, in anxiety, but also in non-ethical behavior. So over consumerist society is non-ethical, not because it is as such, you know, it is consumerism is bad. It is because overly consumerist society does not care for those who are in a worse position. So this is what is the task of religious community, religious leaders, or institutions to warn against.
Very clear. Are you ready, Clegg, Josh? Go.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
Well,
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I want to ask this question. Say that what can we say, or what do you think about what impact can you say that religion is having on the socioeconomic well-being of society?
Do you get the question, Professor?
Okay, yes, I mean, the measuring of impact is you know, it is a tough thing to do. In many of initiatives that are going on, if you single them out, 98% of them would be probably a failure, you know. But it is also it should be seen as a generational approach. So maybe not everything will change in one generation, but I always am keen to point, for example, to Latin America, to the Latin American priests and who are living in very dangerous places, in favelas, and who try to help people. So maybe if we have some kind of big project and look if it's successful or not, probably it will be half-half. But I cannot see, maybe I'm biased, I'm definitely biased, maybe I'm too subjective, but I cannot see vast majority of population today to be in any way developing into the future without a religious support. And this religious support is, from education to health service, to ethical conduct, to better life, to spiritual life, which is often lacking in the approach of government position. So you have a legal government, of course, you have social care, you have everything, but you don't have this spiritual aspect. And we are spiritual beings. We love, we hate, we are sad, we are happy. And this is something that someone has to acknowledge. And this, I don't say that it's perfect. I don't say that religious institutions have been doing it very successfully and good for many centuries. But I also think that there is a very big army of religious persons who are doing it every day quietly, but for benefit of population.
Luseko, I know yesterday wasn't too lucky, but let's try today. Luseko, I just turned your microphone on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc. I really appreciate.
All right.
I hope today I'm clear.
Yeah, let's go ahead, please, with the question.
Thank you so much. I wanted to talk about the climate change. What is, we know that these are some of the nature things which are difficult as humans to control. But
Okay.
what is really, what is really the best way how we can handle this, or what adjustment should we do to be able to, should we say, just to be able to acquaint to what is really happening?
Thank you for your question, because I have a very good answer to it. I was in fact hoping that someone will ask this. Of course, the technical answer to this is not for me to say. It is there is a vast academic society that is dealing with it. What from the theological perspective, religious perspective, I would say that we should try. And this is something that will count, but trying to save or trying to act against climate change, or trying to adjust to climate change, is something that is very important, because not trying and just saying, I quit, I cannot fight this, is something that religious approach cannot support. But mind this is very important now. We might not succeed, and we might fail. We might destroy the planet, or the planet might destroy us. We might end up living in a very inhospitable planet. But is this worth of not trying? I don't think so. And it's also a part of faith, and also part of prophecy, let's say. This world, by tradition of all religions, will end. One day it will end. We don't know when. We don't know how. Maybe it's this, maybe it's not. But it is for us to try to save the creation as we know it or as we believe it. That is what we should do.
Fully agree with that. There is a request on the chat section from a participant, Noel Nana, telling us she is unable to locate the way to solicit permission to ask questions. I am turning your mic, and you are still around, Noel Nana. Go ahead with your question, please. Is on. If not, then you may ask the question on the chat section. If we have some more time to, I'll read it and convey that question to our presenter. All right, so that doesn't seem to be working. So we're gonna go to Herbert Asukwo. Herbert, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
For the opportunity.
So ask people around you to be quiet, please. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. The issue about religion, as we have heard from the presentation, is I think is something that involves all of us. And for me, it's going to be a comment based on my observation. Based on the presentation, we have seen that religion is about 90%, controls the 90% of the world's population. That is a huge power. And with this power, it means religion carries the uppermost to make change. But they start to say religion is not meant to do that. The question arises, humans are paid creatures. To whom are they paying to? Who are humans really paying to live on it? It is to religion that humans are paying to. That is from my clear observation. Because
thank you very much.
Take for example, I am in Nigeria, speaking from Nigeria now. From the lower level to the upper level, even the top ranking men of the world belongs to religion, and they are paying, just like the lower people are paying. So the whole thing goes to religion. And controlling of the natural resources, the observation is clear that religions are the one wasting the natural resources much, because a lot of religious festivals, a lot of religious rituals, resources are just put to waste. Oil and many other things are put to waste by religion in order to make profit. So religion, if we think will be able to help in bringing change, no. They will just disguise themselves and then they will do more. But in fact, the world's problem is religion.
Thank you very much for your comment, Herbert. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yes, I understand your position, which is perfectly okay, and in fact I agree with most of it. I don't agree but let me maybe explain one basic thing. Except the thing that we are all sinners in our religious institutions, and we know it very well. But when we say religion, what do we mean by it? This is also a thing that is maybe important to tackle. I usually say it's three things, and we should be very clear which of these three things we are talking about. One is religious teaching. It is something that is based in holy scripts and studied through theology. This is a body of learning, a body of knowledge that religion gives us. Then there is religious institutions, the communities, faith-based organizations, the hierarchy of power, as you said, of power and interest also. And there is also religion as customs, religion as traditions and beliefs in local communities. So if there is a local community that wants to protect one natural area for which they have some kind of religious ideas, the holy tree, or as we can see it here, or a holy mountain or holy river, or a place where some of our religious saints or prophets lived. Then it is basically a religion-driven activity, which doesn't have to involve religious institution, but it's still religion. So it also depends a lot on what do we think and what do we understand as religion.
All